The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Among the countless stars, a single ship moved in silence. The Zixthar reconnaissance vessel. Silent Observer had been drifting near the edge of the Kepler 442 system for 3 days now. Its mission was simple: scan the asteroid fields for valuable minerals and report back to the homeworld. Junior Scout Commander Vexla sat in the command chair, watching the display screens with half-closed eyes. It had been a boring assignment. Nothing but rocks and ice for days. The rest of the crew moved quietly through their stations, running routine checks and monitoring the sensor sweeps. Everything was normal. Everything was peaceful. Then every alarm on the bridge screamed at once. Vexla jerked upright, all 4 of his eyes snapping open wide. The main display flooded with warning symbols. His communications officer started shouting. His sensor operator was frantically pressing controls. "The whole bridge erupted into chaos. Report!" Vexla commanded, forcing calm into his voice. "Multiple contacts." The sensor operator called out. 17 signatures, Commander, big ones. They just appeared at the system's edge. Vexla felt his blood go cold. Ships did not simply appear. Even with jump drives, there were always warning signs. Energy buildup, gravitational distortions, something. But these vessels had materialized with almost no warning at all. "Show me," he said. The main screen shifted. 17 massive shapes hung in the darkness. They were huge, each one easily 3 times the size of the Silent Observer. But what made Vexla's skin crawl was their appearance. These ships looked wrong. They were angular and crude, covered in strange markings and symbols. They had none of the smooth, elegant curves of Galactic Council vessels. "Run identification," Vexla ordered. The computer worked for several seconds. Then a single word appeared on the screen. "Unknown." "Check the registry again," Vexla said. "All Council vessels, all known species, everything." The sensor operator's fingers danced across the controls. More seconds passed. The answer came back the same: unknown. These ships existed in no database. They belonged to no registered civilization. "Energy signatures?" Vexla asked. "Primitive, Commander," the tactical officer reported. "Nuclear fusion drives, kinetic weapons, railguns, some kind of explosive missiles. The technology is at least 2 centuries behind Council standard." Vexla should have felt relieved. Primitive technology meant primitive threat. But something about the way these ships moved made him nervous. They were arranged in a perfect formation. Not random, not civilian, military, precise, disciplined. "Pull up recent intelligence reports," Vexla ordered. "Search for any species matching this technology level and ship design." The computer searched through thousands of files. Finally, it found a match. Vexla read the report and felt his hearts begin to race. Humans. The word alone was enough to make experienced Council officers nervous. Humans were a newly discovered species from the galactic rim. They had appeared in Council space less than a year ago. In that short time, they had destroyed 3 different pirate fleets. Not defeated, destroyed. The pirates had sent distress calls describing weapons they had never seen before and tactics that made no sense. Then the calls had stopped. When Council patrol ships arrived, they found only wreckage. The Galactic Council had voted to observe humanity with extreme caution. No direct contact. No interference. Just watch and learn. The report suggested humans were unpredictable, aggressive, and frighteningly creative when threatened. And now 17 of their warships were here. "Where are they headed?" Vexla asked. The navigation officer projected their course on the screen. Vexla's blood went even colder. The human fleet was moving toward Council space. Not toward the rim, not exploring. They were heading directly toward one of the major trade hubs. "Send an encrypted message to High Command," Vexla ordered. "Maximum priority. Tell them we have detected 17 human warships. Course suggests movement toward Council territory. We are maintaining surveillance protocols." The communications officer nodded and began encoding the message. Vexla turned back to the main screen. He watched the human ships move through space. Their formation was perfect. Too perfect. These were not explorers. These were soldiers. Minutes passed. The human fleet continued its steady advance. Vexla ordered his crew to maintain their distance and keep all sensors focused on the strangers. The Silent Observer was built for exactly this kind of mission. It could watch and record without being detected. The humans would never know they were there. Then something impossible happened. one of the human ships broke formation. It changed course slightly, just a few degrees, but those few degrees put it on a direct path toward the silent observer. Coincidence, the tactical officer said. They cannot possibly detect us. Vexilla was not so sure. He had learned to trust his instincts. Something felt wrong about this. Track that ship, he ordered. I want constant updates on its position. The minutes crawled by. The human ship continued its new course, still heading toward them. The rest of the fleet maintained their original trajectory, but this one vessel seemed to have a different mission. Commander, the sensor operator said quietly, that ship is definitely tracking us. The angle is too precise. It knows we are here. Impossible, the tactical officer insisted. We are in full stealth mode. We are bending light around our hull. We are dampening all emissions. No species in Council space can detect us like this, certainly not humans with their primitive technology. But Vexilla watched the human ship's course and knew the truth. Somehow, impossibly, they had been detected. These humans with their crude technology and ancient weapons had found a way to see through 3 centuries of Zixthar stealth development. Identify that ship, Vexilla ordered. The computer zoomed in on the approaching vessel. Letters were painted on its hull in bright white. USSC Perseverance. Below that was a symbol showing a blue and green planet. Earth, Vexilla realized. The human homeworld. Distance? He asked. 15,000 kilometers in closing, came the reply. Vexilla made his decision. Prepare to engage evasive maneuvers. If they get within weapons range, we jump immediately. But even as he gave the order, Vexilla felt a cold certainty settle over him. The humans had found them when they should have been invisible. They were tracking them when it should have been impossible. What else could they do that the Council thought was impossible? On the main screen, the USSC Perseverance grew larger. Behind it, the rest of the human fleet continued toward Council space. And Vexilla realized that his simple survey mission had just become something far more dangerous. He was about to become the first Zixthar to make contact with humanity. Whether he survived the experience was suddenly an open question. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet beeping of sensors and the soft hum of the engines. Every member of the crew watched the approaching human ship. They all knew what Vexilla knew. They had entered a game whose rules they did not understand, against a species that played by no rules the Council recognized, and they were losing. Vexilla's fingers trembled slightly as he gripped the armrest of his command chair. The human ship was still coming, still tracking them, still closing the distance with mechanical precision. Engage full stealth mode, Vexilla ordered. Everything. I want every system dampened. No emissions at all. The crew worked quickly. Throughout the silent observer, systems shut down or switched to minimal power. The hull coating shifted, becoming even more reflective. Thermal vents closed. The ship became a ghost in space. Full stealth engaged, Commander, the tactical officer reported. We are effectively invisible now. No known technology can detect us. Vexilla nodded. In 300 years of Zixthar naval history, no enemy had ever detected a ship in full stealth mode. It was their greatest tactical advantage. Ships could pass within meters of each other and never know. The technology had taken generations to develop and perfect. On the screen, the USSC Perseverance continued its approach. Its course had not wavered even slightly. Distance? Vexilla asked. 12,000 kilometers, the sensor operator replied. His voice was tight with worry. Commander, they are still tracking us. Their course is too accurate. They know exactly where we are. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the main screen. It should not be possible. The mathematics said it could not happen, but the human ship was proving the mathematics wrong. Begin evasive maneuvers, Vexilla ordered. Pattern Delta 7. Use the asteroid field. The silent observer's engines came to life. The ship banked sharply and dove toward a nearby cluster of asteroids. The pilot was skilled, weaving between massive rocks with practiced ease. They used the gravitational pull of larger asteroids to slingshot around corners. They deployed small decoy drones that mimicked their energy signature. It was a maneuver that had never failed. Enemy ships would lose the trail, chase the decoys, or simply give up. The Zixthar had perfected the art of disappearing, but when Vexilla checked the display, his heart sank. The USSC Perseverance had adjusted course. It had ignored every decoy. It had predicted their slingshot maneuver and taken a shortcut. The human ship was actually closer now than before. How? The tactical officer whispered. How are they doing this? Vexla had no answer. He watched the human ship move and realized something terrifying. The humans were not using superior technology. Their sensors were primitive by Council standards, but they were using what they had in ways no one had thought possible. Their tracking algorithms were crude but devastatingly effective. Commander, we have to do something, the communications officer said. They will be in weapons range in 5 minutes. Vexla made a decision. Open all communication channels. All frequencies. Broadcast in Galactic Standard. The communications officer looked surprised but obeyed. Channels open, Commander. Vexla took a deep breath. This is Junior Scout Commander Vexla of the Zixthar reconnaissance vessel Silent Observer. We are on a peaceful survey mission authorized by the Galactic Council. We mean no harm. We are conducting routine scientific research. Please respond. The message went out into space. Seconds passed. Then minutes. No response came. The human ship continued its pursuit. Send it again, Vexla ordered. And again. Keep sending it. The communications officer sent the message over and over. The words repeated into the silence of space. Still no answer came. The human ship grew larger on the display. 3 minutes to weapons range, the tactical officer reported. Vexla felt sweat forming on his skin. He was running out of options. They could not outrun the humans. They could not hide from them. They had tried communicating and been ignored. That left very few choices. Then the communications panel beeped. Everyone on the bridge jumped. A message was coming in. From the human ship. Put it on speaker, Vexla ordered. A voice filled the bridge. It spoke Galactic Standard perfectly, but with a strange accent that made some words sound harsh and clipped. Human colonial fleet to unknown vessel. You have been tracking our fleet for 6 hours. Respond to our hails immediately or you will be treated as hostile. You have 60 seconds to comply. The crew exchanged worried looks. Vexla cleared his throat. We are responding now. We are a Council survey vessel. We detected your ships and maintained observation distance as per standard protocol. We pose no threat to you or your fleet. Another pause. Then the human voice spoke again. Your vessel has been following us since we entered this system. You maintained sensor lock on our ships continuously. You made no attempt to identify yourselves. Under our rules of engagement, this constitutes hostile reconnaissance. Explain your presence immediately. Vexla felt confusion wash over him. In Council space, observing foreign vessels was normal. Expected even. How else would you gather information about newcomers? How else would you determine if they were peaceful or dangerous? But the humans seemed to think it was some kind of attack. We were conducting standard observation protocols, Vexla explained carefully. We detected unknown ships and monitored them to gather data for peaceful contact. This is normal procedure for all Council species. Silence stretched for long seconds. Then the human voice returned, but this time it sounded slightly less hostile. This is Admiral Chen of the United Systems Colonial Fleet. I understand your position, but you must understand ours. In human space, ships that watch without identifying themselves are usually scouts for raiders or invasion forces. We have learned to treat unknown surveillance as a hostile act. Vexla's mind raced. The cultural difference was stunning. The Council viewed observation as the first step toward friendship. Humans viewed it as preparation for war. Both perspectives made sense from their own histories, but the misunderstanding could easily turn deadly. Admiral Chen, Vexla said carefully, I assure you we mean no harm. We are researchers, not warriors. Our mission is to study this system's mineral content and report our findings. Your fleet's presence was unexpected, but we have no hostile intentions. Another pause. Vexla could almost hear the human commander thinking, weighing options, making calculations. Finally, Admiral Chen spoke again. Scout Commander Vexla, your explanation is noted. However, your actions still constitute surveillance of our operations. I am giving you 2 choices. 1. Surrender your vessel for inspection so we can verify your claims. 2. Withdraw immediately beyond the system's heliosphere. You have 30 seconds to decide. Vexla felt panic rise in his chest. Surrender the Silent Observer? Allow humans to board a Council stealth ship? They would learn every secret. They would understand how the Zixthar stayed invisible. Centuries of technological advantage would disappear. But withdrawing meant abandoning the mission. It meant letting 17 human warships continue toward Council space without proper surveillance. High Command would demand answers he could not give. 15 seconds, Admiral Chen said. Vexilla made his choice. There was a third option, one the humans had not considered. Prepare emergency jump, he ordered his crew. Full power. Straight to Council space. The tactical officer looked horrified. Commander, jumping from inside the heliosphere is incredibly dangerous. The star's gravity well could tear us apart. Do it anyway, Vexilla commanded. Engage on my mark. The jump drive began to charge. Power flowed through the ship's systems. The engines whined as they built up the massive energy needed to punch through space-time. 5 seconds, Admiral Chen said. Her voice remained calm, almost casual. Jump drive at 90%, the engineer reported. 94%. 97. Jump drive at 99%. Ready to engage, Commander. Vexilla opened his mouth to give the order. Then every light on the bridge went dark. The displays died. The engines fell silent. The gentle hum of life support faded away. Emergency lighting flickered and failed. The silent observer became a dead hulk floating in space. In the absolute darkness, Vexilla heard his crew beginning to panic. Someone was sobbing. Someone else was praying in their native tongue. The tactical officer was cursing steadily. Vexilla sat frozen in his chair. They had not been hit. No weapons had fired. No impacts had registered. The ship was intact. But every system was offline. After several long moments, emergency power kicked in. Dim red lights appeared along the floor. One backup console flickered to life at the tactical station. The officer scrambled to activate it. What happened? Vexilla demanded. Report. The tactical officer's hands shook as he worked the controls. All primary systems offline. Navigation, weapons, jump drive, communications, sensors, everything. But Commander, there is no damage. The systems just stopped. Vexilla felt cold horror settle over him. He moved to the backup console and looked at the external view. The human fleet sat in perfect formation 3,000 kilometers away. Not one ship had fired. Not one weapon had activated. They were simply there watching. Then text appeared on the backup screen. Simple letters in Galactic Standard. Your systems will be restored in 24 hours. Consider this a warning. Leave human space and do not return uninvited. USSC Fleet Command. The screen went dark again, leaving only the red emergency lights. In the silence, Vexilla understood the terrible truth. The humans had a weapon the Galactic Council did not even have a name for. They had reached into the silent observer and turned it off like someone extinguishing a candle. And they had done it without even trying hard. The silent observer drifted through space like a corpse. Inside, the crew worked by the dim red glow of emergency lights. Everything was quiet except for the sound of breathing and the occasional beep of battery-powered equipment. Vexilla stood in the center of the bridge, trying to maintain calm. Around him, his crew fought against rising panic. They were professionals trained for emergencies, but nothing in their training had prepared them for this. Status report, Vexilla ordered, keeping his voice steady. The tactical officer checked his battery-powered tablet. Life support is on emergency backup. We have 72 hours of oxygen. Power reserves will last about the same. Water and food supplies are adequate. So we will survive if the humans meant what they said, Vexilla concluded. They promised to restore our systems in 24 hours. That gives us 48 hours of margin? If they were telling the truth, the communications officer added quietly. Vexilla had no answer for that. He moved to the engineering station where Krillax was working. The engineer had pulled up floor panels and was examining the primary systems with handheld diagnostic tools. What can you tell me? Vexilla asked. Krillax looked up, his face troubled. Commander, this makes no sense. I have checked every major system. Navigation, weapons, communications, sensors, jump drive. There is no physical damage. No burned circuits. No melted components. The hull is intact. Everything is just off. Can you turn them back on? I have tried. The computers do not respond. It is like they are asleep or dead. Krillax tapped his diagnostic scanner against his palm. I have been an engineer for 30 years. I have repaired damage from combat, accidents, and system failures. But I have never seen anything like this. Vexilla felt a chill run through him. Keep trying. There must be a way. He returned to the bridge and found several crew members gathered around the one working backup console. They were talking in low, worried voices. What is it? Vexilla asked. The tactical officer looked up. Commander Krillax sent his findings to this console. I have been analyzing the pattern of the shutdown. Every system failed at exactly the same instant. down to the microsecond. That kind of synchronization is nearly impossible to achieve, even deliberately. What does it mean? It means the humans did not attack our systems one by one. They attacked them all at once, simultaneously. The tactical officer pulled up a diagram on the screen. Our computers run on quantum processors. The information is stored in quantum states, for everything to fail at once. Finish your thought, Vexilla commanded. They collapsed the quantum states, Commander. All of them. From a distance. The tactical officer's voice shook slightly. It is called directed quantum decoherence. Our scientists theorized it was possible years ago, but they calculated it would require power outputs equivalent to a small star. The mathematics said it could never be miniaturized. Yet the humans just did it from a ship. Vexilla sat down heavily in his command chair. The implications were staggering. A weapon that could shut down any computer system without firing a shot. No defense was possible. No shields could stop it. And the humans had apparently mounted it on their warships as casually as the Zixthar mounted sensor arrays. Around him, the crew began talking among themselves. Some wanted to immediately report this to the council. They argued that humanity represented an existential threat. A species with this kind of technology could disable entire fleets without a fight. Others disagreed. The humans had shut them down but not destroyed them. They had left the life support on backup power. They had promised to restore the systems. Maybe this was not an act of war but a warning. Vexilla listened to both sides and said nothing. He was thinking about everything he knew about humans. It was not much. The council had only discovered them recently. But the reports painted a picture of a species that had developed differently from everyone else. Humans had gone from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. Most species took thousands of years for that journey. The report suggested humans had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times during that period. Wars, environmental disasters, diseases. They had come within years of extinction on at least 3 occasions, but they had survived. And each time they nearly died, they had emerged stronger and more determined. Vexilla pulled up the reports of the Krell pirates on his tablet. The Krell were vicious raiders who had terrorized the Galactic Rim for decades. They had advanced weapons and brutal tactics. 3 different council task forces had tried to stop them and failed. Then the Krell had encountered humans. The pirate reports described the battles in confused, frightened language. They said the humans fought in ways that made no sense. They used weapons in combinations no one expected. They changed tactics constantly, never repeating the same approach twice. They refused to surrender even when defeat seemed certain. The Krell called them insane, suicidal, impossible to predict. Then the report stopped. When council ships investigated, they found the Krell base completely destroyed. Every ship, every station, every outpost gone. The humans had not just defeated the pirates. They had erased them. Vexilla closed the report and looked around his darkened bridge. Perhaps the humans were not aggressive by nature. Perhaps they were survivors who had learned to eliminate threats completely and permanently. The thought was both comforting and terrifying. Hours passed slowly. The crew rationed their emergency supplies and took turns sleeping. Vexilla stayed awake, watching the passive optical telescope. It was a backup system so primitive it required manual operation, but it still worked because it had no computers. Through the telescope, Vexilla watched the human fleet. They were not attacking anyone. They were not even moving much. Instead, they had spread out through the asteroid field and begun mining operations. Large ships deployed smaller craft that attached to asteroids and started cutting them apart. They are mining, Vexilla said aloud. Junior Sensor Officer Trinex looked up from her station. Commander? Look. Vexilla pointed at the display showing the telescope feed. Those are not military operations. They are industrial. Mining and refining. Trinex studied the images. You are right. Those 17 ships are not warships at all. Or not primarily. They are colony vessels. Armed, yes, but their main purpose is resource extraction. Vexilla felt understanding dawn. They were defending their mining operation. From us, Trinex added quietly. We appeared without identifying ourselves. We watched them for 6 hours. From their perspective, we were a hostile scout vessel observing their vulnerable civilian operation. Vexilla leaned back in his chair. The entire situation suddenly made horrible sense. The humans had not attacked out of aggression. They had defended themselves from what they perceived as a threat. They had used the minimum force necessary to neutralize that threat without killing anyone. They had even promised to restore the systems and given a timeline. It was almost civilized, in a violent, frightening way. "Commander," the communications officer said, "I have been thinking about the Galactic Council's first contact protocols." "What about them?" "They assume peaceful intent until proven otherwise. We observe, we analyze, we eventually make contact. It has worked for centuries with dozens of species." The communications officer paused. "But humans seem to assume hostile intent until proven otherwise. They watch for threats, prepare for the worst, strike first if necessary. Neither approach is wrong. They are just completely incompatible." Vexilla nodded slowly. It was exactly the problem. The Council and humanity were both acting rationally by their own standards. But those standards were so different that rational behavior on both sides had nearly led to disaster. He was about to respond when lights flickered across the bridge. The crew jumped to their feet. Systems began humming back to life. Display screens activated one by one, running through their startup sequences. The main engines powered up. Navigation came online. Weapons, sensors, communications, everything. Vexilla checked the chronometer. 23 hours since the shutdown. The humans had kept their promise. They had even given back power an hour early. "All systems operational, Commander," the tactical officer reported, relief flooding his voice. "Running full diagnostics now, but everything appears normal." Then a new alert appeared on the communications screen. An incoming message. Vexilla opened it. "Silent Observer, this is USSC Perseverance. We apologize for the harsh response to your presence. We would like to discuss this incident and avoid future misunderstandings. We are sending a small shuttle with 3 diplomats. They are unarmed. Will you permit them to dock?" The entire bridge fell silent. Every crew member looked at Vexilla, waiting for his decision. He thought about the disabled systems, the fear, the hours of uncertainty. He thought about the reports of human violence and the destroyed pirate fleets. Then he thought about how the humans had shut them down without destroying them, restored their systems exactly as promised, and were now requesting peaceful discussion. "Prepare to receive visitors," Vexilla ordered, "and someone find the diplomatic protocol handbook. I think we are about to make history." For better or worse, first contact with humanity was about to begin. Vexilla stood in the docking bay, trying not to show his nervousness. Behind him, 2 security officers waited with powered-down weapons. The tactical officer had argued strongly against allowing the humans aboard. But Vexilla had made his decision. They needed to talk. They needed to understand each other before this situation spiraled further out of control. The docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk. Air pressure equalized with a hiss. The door began to open. 3 humans stepped through. They were smaller than Zixthar, which surprised Vexilla. Most species that acted this aggressively were physically imposing. But humans were compact, with only 2 eyes and strange flat faces. Yet the way they moved suggested confidence and capability. The first human was a woman wearing a military uniform covered in colorful insignia. She had short gray hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. This was Admiral Chen. Vexilla recognized her from the voice. Next came another woman in civilian clothing carrying a data tablet. She had dark skin and wore thin metal frames over her eyes. Some kind of vision enhancement, Vexilla guessed. The third human was a man in formal diplomatic attire. He was older, with white hair and deeply lined face that suggested long years of experience. Admiral Chen stepped forward and extended her hand palm up. Vexilla remembered from the briefing files that this was a human greeting gesture. He reached out with his primary manipulator and touched her palm with his own. Her skin was warm and her grip was firm but not aggressive. "Scout Commander Vexilla," Admiral Chen said, "thank you for agreeing to meet with us. This is Dr. Okafor, our technical specialist, and Ambassador Kowalski, our senior diplomatic officer." "You are welcome aboard the Silent Observer," Vexilla replied carefully, "though I confess the circumstances of this meeting are unusual. That's one word for it." Admiral Chen's mouth curved slightly. Vexilla thought it might be a smile, though human expressions were hard to read. "Commander, I want to start with an apology. We disabled your ship because we perceived you as a hostile scout. I understand now that your actions were based on standard Galactic Council protocol. We reacted according to human military doctrine. Neither of us was wrong by our own standards, but we nearly started a war through misunderstanding." Vexilla felt some of his tension ease. Admiral, your apology is accepted. I must also apologize. We should have identified ourselves immediately upon detecting your fleet. In Council space, observation is considered polite curiosity. I did not realize that humans would see it as hostile surveillance. Ambassador Kowalski spoke up. His voice was gentle, almost grandfatherly. Commander, may we sit somewhere and discuss this properly? I think we have much to learn from each other. Vexilla led them to a small conference room near the docking bay. It was designed for meetings with other Council species, with adjustable furniture and multiple atmosphere options. The humans examined everything with obvious interest, but they said nothing about the technology. Professional courtesy, Vexilla thought. Once everyone was seated, Admiral Chen leaned forward. Commander, I need to explain something about human history. It might help you understand our response. Please, Vexilla said. Humans evolved alone on our world. We had no contact with other intelligent species until we developed spaceflight. For our entire history, the only threats we faced came from each other. Admiral Chen paused, choosing her words carefully. We spent 10,000 years fighting ourselves. Wars over territory, resources, beliefs, differences. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental collapse. Each time we survived by pure luck and determination. When we finally achieved faster-than-light travel and left our solar system, she continued, we expected to find friends, or at least neutral civilizations. Instead, the first aliens we encountered were automated weapons platforms left by a dead civilization. Ancient war machines that attacked anything that moved. We lost 3 colony ships before we learned to defend ourselves. Dr. Okafor picked up the explanation. The second aliens we met were the Krell pirates. They saw humanity as easy prey, weak, technologically inferior. They attacked our colony without warning, killed thousands, took many as slaves. We destroyed them, Admiral Chen said flatly. Completely. Because we learned something in our 10,000 years of fighting ourselves. When someone threatens to destroy you, half measures are suicide. You eliminate the threat permanently or it comes back stronger. Vexilla listened in silence. The story explained so much about human behavior. They were not naturally aggressive. They were survivors who had learned to strike first and strike hard. A species shaped by constant danger. So when you appeared without identification, Admiral Chen continued, watching our vulnerable mining operation for 6 hours, our training took over. Unknown observer plus civilian ships equals scout for incoming attack. We responded with our interdiction pulse. The weapon that disabled our systems, Vexilla said. Yes. Dr. Okafor opened her data tablet. Commander, I have something unprecedented to share with you. Admiral Chen has authorized me to provide limited technical specifications for our quantum disruption technology. Vexilla's eyes widened. You would give us your weapon's secrets? Not complete specifications, Dr. Okafor clarified, but enough for your scientists to develop countermeasures. We do not want the Galactic Council thinking we have an unstoppable weapon. That would make everyone nervous and paranoid. Better to share enough information that you can defend against it. Why? Vexilla asked. Every species guards their technological advantages. Admiral Chen smiled slightly. Because we learned another lesson from our history, Commander. Secrets breed fear. Fear breeds conflict. Conflict breeds death. We have had enough death. If sharing our advantage means building trust instead of fear, then it is worth the cost. Dr. Okafor turned her tablet around so Vexilla could see. The screen showed complex diagrams and mathematical equations. The principle is actually simple, though the execution is difficult. We use directed quantum tunneling to collapse the quantum states in computer processors. Your council scientists were correct that it requires enormous power. But humans have always been good at engineering around limitations. We developed the technology out of necessity, Dr. Okafor continued. Those ancient weapons platforms I mentioned had quantum shielding we could not penetrate with conventional weapons. We needed a way to shut them down without destroying the valuable technology they protected, so we learned to turn off their computers from a distance. The technique proved adaptable to other situations. Vexilla studied the diagrams. Even with his limited technical knowledge, he could see the elegance of the solution. Your species is remarkably inventive. Desperation is a powerful motivator, Dr. Okafor replied. Ambassador Kowalski cleared his throat. Commander Vexilla, this brings us to the reason for our visit. The United Systems Colonial Fleet would like to open formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. We understand that our methods seem aggressive by your standards. We know our history is violent, but we would prefer to be allies rather than adversaries. We are not monsters, Admiral Chen added. We are survivors who prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. If the Council can accept that about us, we can learn to accept your more trusting approach to the galaxy. Vexilla thought carefully before responding. Admiral Ambassador Dr. Okafor, I will be honest with you. When your weapon disabled my ship, I thought we were about to die. Your species has a reputation for eliminating threats permanently. I expected destruction. But you did not destroy us, Vexilla continued. You shut down our systems without harming the crew. You left our life support functional. You promised to restore power, and you kept that promise exactly. Even gave us power back early. And now you come here with apologies and offers of friendship. He stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, the human mining ships continued their work among the asteroids. I have studied the reports about humans, about the pirates you destroyed, about your violent history, but I think the Council has been looking at the wrong things. Yes, you are capable of terrible violence, but you are also capable of remarkable restraint. Vexilla turned back to his guests. You could have killed us easily. You chose not to. That choice matters more than your capability for violence. Admiral Chen stood as well. Commander, I need to ask you something. What will you report to your High Command? Your answer will determine how humanity and the Council interact going forward. Vexilla was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the rules and protocols he had been trained to follow. He thought about his duty to the Zixthar military command. Then he thought about the bigger picture, about preventing war through understanding rather than causing it through fear. I will report first contact with humanity, he said finally. I will describe your weapons and capabilities honestly, but I will also recommend that the Galactic Council offer you immediate diplomatic status. I will explain that your species has defensive tactical doctrine, not aggressive expansion doctrine. I will make clear that humanity is dangerous but not hostile. The difference is critical, Ambassador Kowalski said softly. Yes, Vexilla agreed. The galaxy has many dangerous species. The Council has learned to work with most of them. I believe we can learn to work with humanity as well. 6 months had passed since the incident in the Kepler 442 system. Vexilla stood in the observation gallery of the Galactic Council chambers, watching the assembly floor far below. The chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from 47 different species. Today it was completely full. Every seat occupied, every delegate present, because today humanity would join the Council. Vexilla had spent the past 6 months preparing for this moment. His report to Zixthar High Command had caused immediate concern. A species with weapons that could disable entire fleets without firing a shot, that could track stealth vessels that should be invisible, that had destroyed the Krell pirates so thoroughly no trace remained. The military commanders had immediately begun preparing defensive strategies. But Vexilla's report had also included his personal observations. The restraint, the apology, the offer to share technology, the clear desire for peaceful relations. High Command had been skeptical, but they had forwarded the report to the full Galactic Council. The Council's response had been predictably mixed. Some species demanded that humanity be quarantined, kept away from Council space until they became less dangerous. Others argued for immediate integration, pointing out that leaving humanity isolated would only make them more paranoid and defensive. A few suggested preemptive military action, though those voices were quickly shouted down. In the end, the Council had voted to send a formal diplomatic mission to human space. Vexilla had been asked to join as a military advisor, given his unique experience with First Contact. He had agreed, though he had been nervous about seeing Admiral Chen and her fleet again. He need not have worried. The humans had welcomed the diplomatic mission with enthusiasm. They had opened their systems for inspection. They had shared cultural information, historical records, and technical specifications. They had been almost desperately eager to prove they meant no harm. Ambassador Kowalski had explained it to Vexilla during one of their many conversations. We have spent our entire existence surrounded by enemies, fighting ourselves, fighting pirates, fighting ancient machines. We are tired of fighting. We want friends. We want allies. We want to be part of something bigger than our own survival. The Council delegates had toured human colonies and met human civilians. They had seen the diversity of human culture, the creativity of human engineering, the strange mixture of hope and paranoia that defined human psychology. Most importantly, they had seen that humans were capable of building rather than just destroying. Now, after months of negotiations and debates, the vote was finally happening. On the assembly floor, the council speaker called for order. The representative was a Thanari, a species known for their calm demeanor and diplomatic skill. Her 6 arms gestured gracefully as she spoke. Honored delegates, we are gathered today to vote on the admission of humanity to the Galactic Council. This species has demonstrated both great capability and great willingness to cooperate. The question before us is simple. Do we welcome them as equals or do we keep them at a distance? The chamber fell silent. Vexla felt his heart beating faster. This moment would define the next era of galactic history. Before we vote, the speaker continued, humanity has requested the opportunity to address the council. I call upon Admiral Chen of the United Systems Colonial Fleet to speak. Admiral Chen rose from the guest section. She walked to the center of the chamber with the same confident stride Vexla remembered from their first meeting. She wore a formal uniform, perfectly pressed, covered in medals and insignia, but her expression was open and honest. Honored delegates, Admiral Chen began, I stand before you as a representative of humanity, not because I am the most important human, but because I am the one who nearly started a war through misunderstanding 6 months ago. The chamber remained silent. Every delegate leaned forward to listen. Humanity is young, Admiral Chen said. We have only been traveling the stars for 2 centuries. We have only known about the Galactic Council for 1 year. Everything we have learned alone. Everything we have built from scratch, and every lesson we have learned came at terrible cost. She paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. We are violent. We do not deny this. We have fought countless wars. We have nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We have weapons that frighten you, and with good reason. They frighten us too. But we are also survivors. We learn to cooperate despite our differences. We learn to share resources instead of fighting over them. We learned that working together makes us stronger than fighting alone. It took us 10,000 years to learn these lessons. Many species never survive long enough to learn them at all. Admiral Chen's voice grew stronger. We know you are afraid of us. You see our weapons and our history, and you wonder if we will bring violence to council space. I understand that fear. I share it. Every human leader asks the same question. Will our violent past define our future, or can we choose a better path? 6 months ago, I disabled a council scout ship because I thought it was a threat. I was wrong. Scout Commander Vexla was following peaceful protocols. I reacted with violence when communication would have worked better. That mistake could have started a war. She gestured toward the observation gallery where Vexla stood. But Commander Vexla gave us a second chance. He could have reported us as aggressors. Instead, he reported us as survivors who made a mistake. Because of his wisdom, we are here today seeking friendship instead of preparing for war. Admiral Chen turned back to the assembled delegates. Humanity has learned something important from our history. We have learned that strength without restraint leads to destruction. We have learned that weapons without wisdom are suicide. We have learned that survival requires cooperation, not just competition. Today we ask to join the Galactic Council, not because we have perfect technology or enlightened culture. We do not. We ask to join because we want to learn from you. We want to share what we have learned. We want to be part of building a better galaxy, not just surviving in a dangerous one. She paused and her voice softened. We have spent our entire existence alone, surrounded by threats. We are tired of being alone. We are tired of seeing enemies everywhere. We want to see friends. We want to see partners. We want to see a future where our children do not have to be as paranoid and armed as we are. And so I offer you this promise, Admiral Chen concluded. If you accept humanity into the Galactic Council, we will share everything we know. Our technology, our tactics, our history. We will hold nothing back, because we understand that trust cannot be demanded. It must be earned. And we are ready to earn yours. She bowed slightly, a gesture of respect, and returned to her seat. The chamber remained silent for several seconds. Then slowly, the Thanari speaker began tapping her primary hands together. The gesture was picked up by other delegates. Soon the entire chamber was filled with the sounds of approval in 47 different forms. The speaker called for order. Thank you, Admiral Chen. Delegates, the time has come to vote. All in favor of admitting humanity to the Galactic Council with full diplomatic status? Vexla watched as lights began appearing on the voting board. Green for yes. Red for no. Yellow for abstain. The votes came in quickly at first, then slowed as delegates considered carefully. Green, green, yellow, green, green, green. More green than Vexla had dared hope. Some yellow. Only a handful of red. After 3 minutes, the final tally appeared. 43 green, 3 yellow, 1 red. The chamber erupted in various expressions of celebration. The speaker's voice cut through the noise. By vote of 43-1, with 3 abstentions, humanity is hereby admitted to the Galactic Council with full diplomatic rights and privileges. Welcome, humans. Welcome to the family of civilized species. Admiral Chen stood again, and this time her eyes were wet with what Vexla had learned were human tears. But she was smiling. A real smile full of relief and joy. Vexla left the observation gallery and made his way down to the assembly floor. He found Admiral Chen surrounded by delegates offering congratulations in dozens of languages and forms. When she saw Vexla, she pushed through the crowd to reach him. "Commander," she said warmly, "none of this would have happened without you." "You earned this, Admiral," Vexla replied. "Your speech was honest and powerful. It was also terrifying," Admiral Chen admitted. "Standing in front of 47 species and confessing our violent history? I thought they would reject us immediately." "They saw what I saw," Vexla said. "A species that knows its own flaws and works to overcome them. That is wisdom, Admiral. That is worthy of respect." Ambassador Kowalski joined them, followed by Dr. Okafor. The ambassador was grinning widely. "We did it. By all the stars, we actually did it. Now the real work begins," Dr. Okafor said. "We have to prove we belong here. We have to show the Council they made the right choice." "We will," Admiral Chen said with confidence. "One day at a time, one choice at a time, just like we have always done." Over the following weeks, humanity began integrating into Council systems. They shared their quantum disruption technology as promised, along with detailed countermeasures. They opened their colonies to Council observers. They contributed ships to joint patrol operations.